What is good? We're back. We're at our first rookie mock of the offseason. Casey, this is old Jay Wayne over here. Big Co still not here. But we're fired up, ready to hit our first rookie mock of the offseason. We got a 1 QB, non-tight end premium. So, these are our patrons that did the draft with us. But for a fantasy class that has been repeatedly beaten down, I think this is really shaping up to be a group of pretty solid players on our hands here. I mean, it's super weird.
Yeah, I don't know what was up with those 40 times, but these players shouldn't be as good as they were at the combine.
Some people seem like they're pretty mad about it.
It's crazy. It's crazy. They're mad at how good this class might be because they've talked such shit about this class.
But that class of 2051 is fire, though.
Yeah.
But for real, the QBs do seem a little sus, but we're not there yet. We're not ready to hit the super flex mock, but go ahead and subscribe. Get your notifications because we will be hitting a super flex mock sooner than later. Like I said, this is our first rookie mock of the season, so we'll continue to put them out, both 1 QB and super flex, and we'll be massaging out, who to take where, how we feel comfortable taking who where, all those kind of things. But we are certainly still incomplete on a lot of evaluations, which is why we only stuck to 2 rounds here. So that'll continue to grow, just as we will be revisiting and reordering who to take where at what place. So
it's March. This is the way too early rookie mock draft, but people have been putting that title of videos for fucking years now.
December.
Yeah.
So we've got a bunch of prospect videos out. We're going to still keep churning those out, but we're going to be putting out trade targets. We got live startup superflex and non-superflex mocks. We got rookies mocks.
Are we going to do the trade targets? We keep talking about it.
Yeah, we got it. It's in the hopper. It's ready to roll. We just need some time to be able to do it. If you're listening on the podcast, hit us with those 5-star reviews. We do have T-shirts newly available at revelrybrewingco.com. Hit the shop up. Go support your boys and get you a nice, soft, comfy T-shirt. And again, this is a Patreon draft, so you can join our Patreon community at patreon.com/FF Dynasty. We got a Discord channel. We're about to unveil some rookie tiers, about to unveil some real tiers. That's why we're starting to do these startup mocks to massage out our actual tiers for players. We've got a nice little community over there. We usually have, an extra show or so a month. So $5 holla will get you hooking your boys up over on Patreon. You ready to roll?
Roll it.
You don't have the draft sound?
I do have the draft sound.
Look at you. All right. So like we said, 1 quarterback, non-tight end premium. The 1-1, I had it. Pretty easy, pretty much locked in here at this point. It's call me the Breece Lightning, Breece Hall.
Gotta be.
Went in there, was
no diggity, no doubt.
Was our pre-combine 1-1, and feeling ourselves after the combine. He's definitely the 1-1 that's pretty much locked in. And we just did an ADP review. It seems like he'll be a second, maybe back end of the first rounder by the time the summer rolls around in startup drafts. So
he's working his way up. It's coming up
in there. So that's the easy pick. So that's 1-1. 1-2. Spiller still comes off the board. So, I can appreciate that. Pre-combine, I think most guys probably had these guys pretty close, with some people having Spiller as the 1-1. I think that's mostly gone to Breece Lightning at this point. But Spiller should still have some respect on his name.
For sure.
For what he's put down on tape and what he's done, I think both pre-combine and post-combine, I would have taken Kenny Three Sticks, Kenneth Walker over Spiller. But I'm still down with Spiller. I really don't have any problems with this pick. Hopefully he does get pushed down a little bit and there's some value there, but I have not worried about at all that Spiller didn't really work out and the things that he did do weren't great at the combine. I think what's on tape is pretty solid and looks plenty fast, plenty quick, plenty aggressive, and has pretty solid hands. So
he was a little banged up during those drills, didn't do the 40. Don't let a bad combine undo everything that you've seen from this man on tape.
Right. So speaking of which, 1-3 was Treylon Burks. Again, I would have taken Walker here. Mm-hmm. Really the 3 RBs first. That would probably be kind of where I would go with this. Then we can have the discussion of whether it's the 3 next wide receivers, which for us is Burks, Wilson, and Drake. I feel like I could make an argument for any 3 of those guys. I could, I could say, I could really make a decent argument. Drake, Burks, Wilson, whichever order you want to chop those up. It's kind of more of a flavor thing of what's your style? What do you like? Drake kind of gives you that big slot, chain moving, red zone threat, knows how to put that basketball background to use.
And the yak.
The yak's probably underrated. I don't think he gets enough love for that. Like, he's not overall a speedy prospect, but the yak is really solid. I believe he had 460 yak yards in only 8 games.
That's strong.
That's pretty solid. Then you got Wilson, who's kind of your combo platter of everything. You got speed, you got route running, you got some yak in there, you got big playability, and Wilson probably moved to the top of that chart for a lot of people maybe after the combine from really going out there and smoking it, but you
didn't know he was that fast.
A little light from
that's how he could run fast.
6 foot 183, but that's fine. I mean, it's not the most physical game ever, but Drake kind of gives you a little bit of that, and then Burks just gives you that prototypical size, strength, build, who was the guy who got picked here and didn't test great at the combine.
He's a locomotive. It takes a second for locomotives to get going.
For sure.
He should have known better. He wasn't going to run a 4.3 in the 40.
Had the college dominator in the 40 at 45.9%. That's the 92nd
Strong, right?
percentile.
Yeah.
College target share was at 31.3%, 93rd percentile. That's according to Player Profiler. A guy who just went out there and put the team on his back time after time. Now, he's always been a little raw. Like, that was that was always a part of his game. We didn't really think that he was necessarily as fast as people were saying he was. Now, his game speed and GPS wise, he had one of the fastest GPS speeds out there this year. Now, that's not accessible to all of the players, so you can't compare too many apples to apples. But we do know that Burks' GPS score speed was higher than a lot of college players, and one of the higher ones that people had seen. Post combine with the Burks not testing well, I think some people, probably gonna push him down a little bit, but I'm still very much interested in Burks from the physical stature that he has and what he's put on tape. He's plenty athletic on field, and it's, again, from what we talked about in the rookie breakdown for him. For me, it's I don't think he's really ever going to be a bust. It's, is he going to get in the right situation? Who's going to train him up, get him in the right headspace, get some better nuance to his game, refine his game, and use him properly, because you got to be able to put him in situations to win, and you got to be creative with him a little bit. He's the kind of guy that you can move all over the place. You can hand it to him. He's great with the ball in his hands. He's big-bodied and can be a problem in the red zone. So there's lots of things you can do with him. If you put him in a sleepy offense with a not-so-inventive offensive coordinator, I don't think he's going to be a bust, but he's probably not going to live up to maybe this 1-3 where he's being drafted right here. So no problem with Burks at all here. I mean, some people may say, hey, we're pushing him down. There was a little bit of effort issues sometimes on blocking, but super smart guy. I believe he was on the dean's list. So, he knows how to work. I think he was just uninterested. And I think at the next level, really, at the end of the day, that's what makes any one of these guys great. What's between the ears and how bad do you want it is, but I don't necessarily think that's a thing with Drake here or with Burks. So, I don't really have any problem with him. Push him down a little bit. Maybe you can trade up and get some value on him. I'm not scared to take Treylon Burks. All right. So, 1-4, Drake London goes off the board. Again, like I said, could chop up these kind of next tier of wide receivers any way you want. Some people might be hating on Drake a little bit. I feel like that some people's tones may have changed a little bit. Seemed like since he didn't do the combine, that more people were like, you know what? I reevaluated the profile here, and I think I'm moving Drake up to my number 1 or 2 guy here. So that was interesting. Super weird.
Because Burks ran a bad 40.
I guess.
London
I don't know.
which is 4.55 is not a bad 40.
No.
Especially when you thought he was going to run a 4.3,
especially at 225. So
correct.
But no, I like Drake. I think Drake. Some people are projecting Drake to be the first actual receiver off the board in the NFL. I think he does a lot for you. We kind of talked about it a minute ago, so I don't really want to necessarily revisit that. We got a whole video on Drake. So Drake's is 1-4. Then at 1-5, we got Kenny Walker, Kenny Three Sticks, as I like to call him, Kenneth Walker III.
Steal at 1-5.
This is a great pick. Love that.
Great job, TJ.
So then you got Garrett Wilson, again, chop those guys anywhere you up. That seems like pretty solid value on him.
Love to get Wilson at 1.6. Pretty strong
for where you could get him. I'm not. It seems like 1 through 1.6. I'm not really upset about any single player I could get. The rest of this, there's just so much depth, a bunch of fun stuff. So, Garrett goes at 1.6, and then 1.7 we got Jameson here. Which is basically you're playing as a game changer here. You're not drafting somebody that could just be a move the chains, could be, just, you're not messing it up kind of guy. You're getting a guy who can devastate you and your team in one play, and that's kind of what he did. He's really a game wrecker. Obviously the ACL maybe slowing him down a little bit, probably would have burned up the combine here. Super fast guy. We got a rookie profile on him, obviously. So this is probably the biggest cut you could take right now, and I'm not upset about it. I think that's properly rated. I think that's probably where you should take Jameson Williams.
Yeah, I'm very fine with that.
All right, so then we're moving on to 1.8, Rashaad White. I think this is probably the first little bit of a reach of a draft.
A little bit feels like a little bit of a reach. Haven't done my full study into Rashaad. Watched a little bit of it. Looks pretty fun. Excited to take him. I will be targeting him because he's a running back.
Right.
But just a little too early in this scenario.
Out of Arizona State, I got him at 23 years old. When I was looking at some stuff on Player Profiler, they had him at 22 years old.
He's already old.
So a little older. Came in at 6 foot 214. Nice wheels, 4.48 at the combine. Nice vert, 38. Speed score from Player Profile in the 84th percentile, burst score in the 87th percentile, college dominator in the 87th percentile, that's 37.8, college target share 18.9, that's the 98th percentile, and looked super comfortable catching balls. The hands looked really soft. I was actually pretty surprised when I threw on the tape, caught 43 of 48 passes, third in PFF's receiving grade as far as running backs go. That was with no filter. In the PFF search, and just a pretty shifty kind of runner. He kind of moves, but he always kind of keeps himself square, which I mean shoulders square facing up to what he has going on. Sort of deceptive style. Didn't necessarily seem like he was fast and agile and bursty while he was doing it, but he always seemed to get away and run around people and run away from people. So I'm not necessarily out on White. I'm just not really ready to take him here. Not a whole lot of all 22s that I could see. I only saw 2, and one was South Utah. Just really starting to dig on him. Got to wait a couple more picks though before I'm starting to look at his way. And then PFF had him graded as the 11th highest runner with a 20% filter of 311 attempts. So
yeah, from a little bit of what I saw, he looked like he could string moves together and be a little bit explosive. Did run a 4.48 at the combine, pretty decent 40 there. Lets his blocks set up pretty well, and it just feels like it's about he's gonna, he could go all the way,
right,
kind of thing. And so when you see a guy catch that many balls and be able to be as shifty as he is, that's something to definitely get excited about. But I got to take this next dude. Yeah, I had the next pick, and I was excited that the guy fell to me.
Rashaad White is going to get drafted and get a nice role. It's just how much capital is he going to have and where's he going to go? And you could easily have him in the first round. I'm waiting a bit, but yeah, I feel you. I definitely think this is the next pick is the pick, and I kind of want to figure out how to get him up higher, but I don't really know how to.
One pick, I can get him up one pick higher.
Right.
I think I still got to take Jameson, but once Jameson's gone, give me George Pickens all day. That dude looks mad fun. Just a physical specimen, carries himself well, has that swagger demeanor. Blew up the unofficial combine. The official combine wasn't quite as flashy, but still
really good.
Still really good. And watching the tape, he's a fluid guy. He has different gears. He has his play speed varies, and he can't go fast, but he looks always under control. He doesn't ever look rushed. He's got a great downfield acumen where he's tracking balls over his shoulder, diving, whatever he needs to do. Just seems like he has some juice after the catch. Not a ton of numbers, not a ton of stats to look at because he didn't play a ton, and that's kind of the issue with him, but came out as a 5-star recruit, was highly touted by the Devy crew, right? And so picking that steam back up again, and just watching him walk around at the combine, it looked like he felt like he was the best player in the room. You know, he carried himself that way. He had that swagger, which I hate that word, but that's what it is looking at George Pickens. And when he's 6'3", which I don't think he trimmed down a little bit probably to run that 40, but
6'3", 195.
He looks bigger than that.
4'7".
He definitely looks bigger than that on tape, and he just looks like a handful for these DBs to go up against. And
I really liked him, like you said, highly regarded Devy prospect. I felt like for a while, I don't do any Devy, but I pay attention to what those guys are kind of saying, and I look at the rankings from time to time. And I felt like he might have fell out of favor a little bit. Like, I feel like people were really hyping him and now kind of fell out. Then he had this nice combine. So, you know, I was a little bummed about that because I thought there was going to be some good value on him because we were starting to really dig in on him and we're getting ready to do a profile on him. But, you know, my God, this guy was in my good gracious for sure right now. I was super hyped about the possibility of maybe getting him a little later, but I think the cat might be out of the bag a little bit here. I think he's probably going to get drafted at a reasonable price tag, so that's going to continue to raise his price. I've been very impressed with going back and watching him just dominate on the field, and really can be a quarterback's best friend. He's just big, long, athletic, 6'3", 195, like I said. Lot of really nice work on just coming back to the quarterback on routes to ensure that he's going to go ahead and get that, and he can get you on the long play. He can get you on the 50-50 ball. Like, it's almost, you know, I felt like I was getting, you know, a little bit of two guys who I really liked, which doesn't bode well for Pickens. I felt like I was getting a little Hakeem Butler vibe and a little Terrace Marshall vibe, but you know, I know that doesn't sit well with people.
Well, he's not good.
Yeah, don't draft him. But I feel like Pickens,
I got to totally reevaluate everything.
I feel like Pickens is got just that big, long player who can, you know,
plenty of people got bit by Hakeem Butler. It wasn't just us.
Who moves really well for how big he is, and like you said, I feel like he's got that confidence out on the field, and just really have been enjoying digging in on him. So yeah, I would certainly have taken him over Rashaad White, and
just a fun swing, man, a big cut with some floor. I mean,
yeah. All right, so that's 1-9. Moving on to 1-10. I feel like Olave might have the most variance of any player going from draft to draft. I feel like some people are really going to have him near the top of this class, and other people are going to have him down lower in this area. And some people might say, hey, you got to take Olave over Pickens and obviously over Rashaad White. And some people might have him over some of those other top receivers and maybe one or two of those running backs that we talked about. So, again, I think there's, you know, a decent amount of variance here. I'm on the more along the lines of probably taking him right down around this area or a little lower. It's not that I dislike Olave. I think he's going to be a solid, you know, wide receiver 2 in the league. I think he's going to have his opportunities to have good games, and I think he'll be just fine. But I'm not super sold on a decent amount of things that he does. I'd say slightly overrated for me.
But you're coming around.
Yeah, I definitely came around more when we did the eval, and it's out there, and I'm not hating on my man at all. He certainly is super fast and a pretty strong route runner. But
yeah, I mean, the route running is definitely something to get excited about. The change of direction, the burst, his versatility.
I just don't like that none of that shows up with the ball in his hands.
Doesn't like to get touched. He's a finesse guy. He's not going and crushing 50-50 balls or
I think
yak.
He'll be better used.
He did crush yak, but a different kind of yak.
He's more valuable to an actual NFL team. And if he turns into Will Fuller, especially as Will Fuller grew into his role, now we haven't seen it in a few years because he's been hurt.
You know,
and
the
moved
best
around,
ability is
Will Fuller.
Will
Fuller's been, you know, for a little stretch there at his end of his tenure with the Texans was on fire and crushing when on the field. So if Olave turns anywhere close to that, then this is an absolute steal.
I had a little bit of a choice to make. I was debating between Olave and Pickens, and ultimately went with Pickens. I feel like Olave feels fairly safe, though. Like, his value should be pretty safe for a little while. And if you hate what you see, there'll still be time to get out if you want.
Yeah, he's going to have those wild plays, and I think he's going to be a field stretcher. I think, like I said, the NFL is going to have a lot more use for him, I think, than maybe he does in fantasy week to week.
It's better than Henry Ruggs, probably.
I think so. And he's probably going to end up with maybe some first-round draft capital in actual drafts. So, you know, that'll probably, you know, move him up a little bit. Like I said, we're going to keep doing these, and maybe at some point he jumps up a little bit for me, but I feel like this was properly rated for him. So then we're into 111, Malik Willis. Hey, shoot your shot. rawest, most upside potential here. You got to bump him down into the second round, mid-second round for me.
Agreed.
But
it's a little too early to be taking a quarterback in a 1 QB league.
I guess I can kind of understand.
It's a fun swing. Maybe you don't like anybody else that well, and you want to swing for another, the next Jalen Hurts or something, which they're saying he could be better than Jalen Hurts, which I like hearing that. And he seems like a guy that has that confidence, that swagger. Seems like a good dude. He's giving away his free shirts.
I've read and listened to a lot of things.
Listened to him on an interview. He's real strong.
I've been in. I listened to a lot of Ryan Russillo, and he said, he's met the kid and he just dominates a room, just absolutely crushes it. As well as they've had the guys who are working with Malik Willis in Quincy and Jordan Palmer on there talking about how great this kid is amongst leaders, amongst the men in the room, and just takes it over. Has that kind of just great personality to be a leader. So that those are all very positive things. And then a plus side athlete
can scramble and get yards on the ground. Not a breakaway athlete, but has some twitch to him and
got to be the first
cannon,
got to be the first super flex quarterback off, and maybe he's up in that 1-2, 1-3 area for you in that regard. For us, we're probably we did with Garrett Price, probably going 1-1 with Breece still in super flex, but just because this is a little suspect.
Sus. The quarterbacks are sus. I said that word. You said I hate that. Now you made it your own. I like it. You gotta take. That's what you gotta do, kids. You gotta take the things that annoy the shit out of you, and then use them to annoy the shit out of other people for your pleasure, and then you won't be as annoyed by it.
Jay Wayne just lives. His whole life is just an annoyance factor. So
people love it. They love to be annoyed.
No, they don't.
They don't like to admit it.
No, they don't.
But I mean, look at you. You hear it every fucking night.
Once you leave the room, they're like, "Fuck."
Well, that's because we're in the South and people don't say what they mean to your face.
All right, so 112, rounding out the first round, Wan'Dale Robinson, 5'8", 178.
Unlike the people from the North who are complete dickheads and tell you everything they're thinking.
Hey, I'd rather have it that way. Probably a little bit early on Wan'Dale for me, and to be transparent, haven't completely dug in on this guy. Feel pretty good about all those other guys we talked about, and I haven't quite got in there. But
he does look fun, but haven't done the deep dive. And shout out to J. Mike Check. That seems to be his boy. He took him over a fair amount of good talent left, so he must really like him.
He lives in Kentucky, so probably a little bit early for me. Had 130 carries at Nebraska, and then transferred to Kentucky. So played a little, had a little hybrid in him. But only 7 attempts this year, but did reel in 94 catches on 128 targets. It was PFF's 8th highest receiving grade, and going and watching a game or two and then watching the highlights. I mean, he's a whole lot of fun. Can be used a little bit of a gadgety kind of guy, and I think maybe last year with a little Rondell action, maybe it's got me a little scared off of a guy like that in this area. Drop him down a couple of rounds or a couple of picks, and maybe I would be a little bit more into him. But I feel like
he seems like maybe not quite as raw, maybe not as explosive as Rondell, but not as raw. He seems a little more refined. Like he's mean, man. This dude goes over the middle with no fear. Catch he took. He was about to get annihilated, a clean hit, and he just held on to that ball. I was just impressed.
He's a whole lot of fun to watch.
I've seen,
but definitely I think to get the full potential, you could throw the gadgetiness in there again to really warrant maybe the 112 pick here, and it just got to go to the right spot. And will they commit to using him properly, or he could just be an awesome slot and really slay. So. Not 100% sure that this is a little bit early for me, but currently it's a little early for me. So now we're into the second round. I had the first pick here. I went Jahan Dotson, 21st in Yak with 482 yards. He was 23% in the slot, 76% out wide. Only had 2 drops on the season, 137 targets, 91 catches, 1,100 yards, 12 TDs. Had a nice 4.43. That kind of shows up on tape. He's pretty fast. He can kind of beat you in all sorts of ways. I feel like he can play inside and out. Doesn't mind being in the middle of the field and taking shots. He can beat you over the top. So I just felt like he's a pretty
spectacular catches and contested, and
the fact that his jumping ability didn't really pop off the charts necessarily, it was a little surprising to me, because it's time after time where he quote unquote climbs the ladder, where it's just makes nice catches and is fully extended and getting his hands on the ball, figuring out a way to come down with it. So he and
Jeremiah called him the best hands in this class.
He's got such natural plucky hands, and I've just watching a lot of Penn State this year. As you know, he was their guy when they needed something. He was there. He could do it. He could get open. I just feel like he could be a high volume guy with the ability to move kind of all around the formation and take it deep. So I really like Jahan Dotson right now. So we'll be getting a breakdown out on him fairly shortly. Pickens, Dotson, David Bell, those kind of guys are up next for us. So then 2-2. A little surprised here after a bad combine, but the same guy who took Spiller isn't shying away from it here, and he takes Kyron Williams.
Shout out to Zach.
So bad combine, obviously, so you got to be dead. So there's no way that Kyron Williams could be good, and I get it, man. If you're the size that he is, and you don't perform well athletically in there, like it should be a little bit of a negative. It should slot you down a little bit. And maybe this is still a little bit high for him. He was probably a fringe first rounder. Now he's right in the fringe the top of the second round. He's probably going to move maybe a little bit down to the mid seconds, maybe late seconds. If you can get him in the third, great. I'd take that all day long.
You can't fall that far down, can you? You can't discount everything you've seen on tape.
13th in yards after contact, 10th in missed tackles forced with 58. So, just super shifty guy and a lot stronger and runs a lot more physical than his size would tell you that he does. So
and runs faster than his 40 time would tell you that he does.
Yeah, definitely quicker than fast. So I'm not really sure what happened there testing wise. It didn't go well. So
he should have taken the Drake London route.
For me, it's just like, hey, I'm excited to still get the value there. He certainly isn't off my board. There was a lot of people who were pretty high on him, maybe as being the third, fourth running back, and that's definitely going to slide down in a lot of cases. So I see it as, hey, give me the value and let me get him where that value is going to settle in. I'll take my shot on Kyron Williams. I think he's easy, nice hands, easy for a third down roll to start things off, and then is going to work his way onto the field because he's a team captain. He's that kind of guy, and just I think what you see on tape is way more indicative than what actually happened at the combine. So probably going to be a little high there, but I'm not upset with it. 2-3, then David Bell. So you got both the guys who are completely dead back to back here. David Bell, 6'1", 212. When you go over this sheet of combine check-ins, there's not a whole lot of guys over 6 foot, and there's almost nobody over 200 pounds. And David Bell was that guy. As well as 3 or 4 other guys. I'm not saying there isn't more than that, but at the combine, 6'1", 212, and he ran a 4.65. That's not great, but
he's as slow as Kyron is.
His dominator. You know who else was slow? Jarvis Landry.
And nobody likes him.
And
bad
he's
example.
got by far the most receiving
Jerry
yards.
Rice.
He's got by far the most receiving yards in that entire class.
Cooper Kupp was slow.
That came out. So David Bell had a dominator rating and at 35.1. That's the 69th percentile. That's pretty strong. Anything over 35 is really good. College target
69
share,
extra
28.7. That's the 86th percentile. And then he's got that breakout age at 18.7, 94th percentile. So he's kind of got everything you're looking for except for the athletic testing and the wide receivers, which, they want the analytics community is going to put a little bit more attention on the running backs testing well, so that's why Kyron's probably going to drop a little bit more. And David Bell, if you watch the tape, you were pretty sure that he wasn't going to come to the combine and blow it up. So if you were expecting him to crush it, whatever, it would have been nice if he would have been in the high 4.5s, low 4.6s. But it's not shying me away from David Bell, man. He's 12th in yak, 536 yards. You get a guy who is good after the catch, who's pretty shifty. He's kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? He's deceptive, and he's got the physicality to his game. Like, he's not scared of you. He can also go through you. He had 133 targets, 93 receptions, 1,275 yards, 6 touchdowns, and 25 missed forced tackles, and that's third. So this guy's, for testing poorly, he's given you pretty much everything else that you want. So I'm certainly not scared of taking David Bell. I probably would have been having no problem up in the end of the first tier. But hey, if you're going to slot him down into the second round, I'm going to have so much David Bell on my team. He's going to be like Amon-Ra St. Brown for me. I'm going to have him on every single team this year if he just continues to fall to that mid-second, late second. Let me get that.
So you took Dotson over Bell.
I did. And I don't know if I would do that or not. It just felt like that was the pick at the time. That's going to be something that I need to figure out. And that was definitely a close call. That was a sweaty finger. And I did go Dotson over David Bell, but I think those were close. We're digging in, like I said, to do rookie prospects with those guys, and those guys have been close trying to figure out kind of on opposite ends of the spectrum athletically. But, man, I really enjoy both of their games, pretty different players, and both, I think, can play inside and out, so I like that. So 2'4", Sky Moore, 5'10", 195, a little thicker than the Jahan Dotsons of the world up there.
And the Wan'Dales.
He came in and taller than him, came in with a 4.41, so that's pretty fast. He's only been playing wide receiver for 3 years. So he was played a little quarterback, was corner safety in high school, got to Western Michigan, much like a Dwayne Eskridge. Switched him over, but they kind of okey-doked him a little bit. After they got him there, they said, hey, when you get here, you're going to be in the wide receiver room. So this guy can play a little inside and out, I think. He only had 34% in the slot and 25% out wide. I think he was playing a little bit more in the slot the first couple of years. 512 yak yards. That's good for 16th overall. Only 3 drops with Sky Moore, too. So pretty solid hands. You got a guy here who's kind of has a little bit kind of like David Bell. He's got the speed, but except he has the speed and the quickness, and he also has
the speed,
right? And but he also has that little bit of physicality to his game. Certainly not scared to go over that middle and win, but definitely has a little bit more breakaway potential for you. So I really like Sky Moore. I'm super interested. So all of a sudden we're through 2 and almost a half rounds, and there's so many guys on here that I like. And
still guys on the board that I can't wait to take.
Right. So, this draft class isn't any good. Well, that's a D, because this draft class is looking like I'm pretty excited about it.
Any particular D? Or?
Whatever.
The FFD.
The FFD, the only D. So 2-5, Damian Pierce goes off the board. Now we're about to get into this, spot, and there's still a receiver who I think could be a first-round guy who isn't off the board yet,
Probably gonna be a
and maybe even a running back who might be a first-round guy when all said and done. And we're about to get into a little bit of a running back threshold. I think this is a little bit more where a lot of people have Rashaad White. So he'd probably be down here a little bit more for everybody. But Damian Pierce is kind of in the first of that tier coming off. So he came off a nice Senior Bowl, really was getting some love for old Damian Pierce there, and then comes in. Doesn't necessarily crush the combine, but certainly doesn't have a bad combine. Only 22 years, or he's 22 years old. Player Profiler has him at 23, I believe. So not really sure exactly what the age is there. Pretty low usage, only 100 attempts this year with 574 yards and 16 touchdowns. So that's pretty strong.
The attempts and usage are people's issues, right?
Right. So 19 receptions, 216 yards, but looks really strong in the passing game, kind of like Rashaad White, but nowhere near the usage that he had in 1 year. 106 attempts in 2020, 503 yards, 17 receptions, another 156 yards reception. And again, not a huge amount of production with Pierce, or usage for Pierce rather, but he was super productive, man. And he kind of has that strong grown man style to his games. And again, like I said, nice soft hands to go with it. I thought he was pretty decent out of the backfield. A couple of times he kind of got a little bit more down the field and made some really handsy, snaggy catches. So I like what I've been seeing from Damian Pierce here. Can make you miss or go through you. So, kind of like that to his game. Seemed to have nice acceleration and burst. Maybe the long speed isn't quite, a super there, but whatever, man. I liked what we saw from Damian Pierce here. So, I'm certainly not upset about that. There's another running back that I would have probably taken over Pierce at this point. And the next guy off the board at 2-6 is Christian Watson, which was the guy I was alluding to before this. So he came in and absolutely crushed the combine, 6'4", 208. Again, another guy who had some Senior Bowl buzz. and then kept it right on rolling through the combine and really hyped himself up, which is why I think that 2.6 is going to turn into maybe more like a 111, 110, 112, 2.1 in non-superflex drafts. Not a whole lot to watch on him. They're a pretty run-heavy team. Trying to go see what he can do, and you can see the speed. It's evident on the field, but like there's just you can't really wrap your head around what they're doing over there, and not a whole lot of things to watch.
He's certainly getting behind those DBs that he's playing against in that conference, but it's not much. How can you really evaluate a guy who's going against that kind of talent level? But then good Senior Bowl, lots of buzz, like you said. Blows up the combine with ridiculous numbers, and people are going to take him just because of that. They don't need to be that sure, but based on the tape, he's a ticket. He's a lottery ticket
for sure. And he's a home run cut that you could take that kind of has a lot of things really lining up. Well,
great
for him.
Size and speed. That combo will get you drafted, and will get you some draft capital. And
his draft capital certainly has moved up in both NFL and fantasy.
Big time. Way to go. Way to boost your stock up with these
Well
events.
done, sir.
Yeah.
And then here comes Brian Robinson, another one of these running backs that we're talking about who just get yourself another lottery ticket. You're just a great little second round here for a bunch of chances on running backs. You got a 6'2", 225 guy coming out of Bama, ran a 4.53. That's pretty strong for a guy of his size. And hey, I'm a lot of people are like, hey, Brian Robinson's a guy who I definitely have my eye on, and maybe people have him in the Rashaad White, Pierce, Robinson kind of maybe in that tier. Maybe some people have him at the top of that tier. I haven't made that decision yet, but again, I'm certainly excited about a bunch of these running backs who are in this mid to late second round here. 2.8, you got something?
I mean, we haven't done our deep dive into Brian Robinson. Don't know if we'll get there for a while or not. Seen a lot of him play at Bama.
Sure.
Maybe a little tough to evaluate him with the number one pick overall, potentially the number one pick overall, blocking for him on the left side. Other studs on that line, a studded out.
He's been there long enough, and we've done the Alabama dance long enough to.
But he's solid. He's a solid guy that
right.
if he gets his opportunity, he should be able to get what's blocked for him and maybe a little bit more. So
right.
Definitely worth taking a stab on in rookie drafts because those running backs can come to fruition based on opportunity and injury. So,
and he was at Alabama, and he got time with Najee Harris on the field, and had plenty of times where you were like, Jesus Christ, here they just were hammering you with this. Now I think he was was he 4? They bring this monster onto the field, and who's this guy? I can remember him as a freshman going, geez, they got another one of these guys, and then Najee kind of jumped in there and said, not so fast, big fella. But Brian Robinson, nice pick here. And then we got Tyler Algier from BYU. Bigger back. He's got a little punishing style to him. Didn't necessarily crush the combine, but wasn't the worst. Big kind of physical back. He had a little shift to him, but I mean, he in the couple of games that I watched to him, he was just smashing. Guys were just kind of bouncing off of him. So could be another one of these guys in that kind of mashed up, pretty big second round tier here. So, I don't hate the 2.8 there. And then here comes Zamir White at 2.9. I think he's got to be way up this board for me. I've really loved what I started to see on tape with him over a few games. And we just had Garrett Price on. He was a big fan of Zeus, which is what they call Zamir White. So I've really enjoyed, he's got a little bit of everything, and he's got that size at 6 foot 214, hit you with a 4.4 flat, and just hasn't had the most opportunity because of health with a knee and then the other knee ACLs.
But still, Garrett brought up the fact that there hadn't been very many backs that have rushed for 2,000 yards, and he's one of them from Georgia. The other backs in that class are highly touted backs, really special dudes. So, did have a decent amount of production. And I made this pick. I didn't think he was going to fall to 2.9. I had him in my queue and I was like, I'll just put him here. But I don't think he's no way he makes it to me at 2.9. Watching some of that tape, like that 4.4 speed is evident on tape. And he also can bust you up.
Right.
And pad level's great. He's always getting downfield. He's a vertical type guy. Like, his mind is made up to go this way. Like, he's going forward. He's going to get extra yards. He's going to fall forward for extra yards. Not a ton in the receiving game. That's why he's not propped up right now. But
they didn't look. Those hands don't look bad when you do see him.
Right. He can catch him. He's maybe
They
not the
happen to have
crispiest
James
route
Cook
runner
there, who is
right.
a fucking fantastic, buttery smooth
Right.
Route runner and pass catcher.
Right, which I probably would have taken James Cook
Right.
if Zamir was gone.
That's what we're saying here, man.
Right.
We're in the second round. This is look at this. This is so much fucking fun here with a bunch of good running backs who could all be, pretty solid. Likelihood that they aren't all. There'll be a bust or two in there, but some of them, could be pretty good players here.
Right.
So Zamir White, a favorite of ours, moving up the board. I think he really helped himself at the combine with people who weren't super familiar with him.
Just a great dude, man. The perseverance that he's had to come through life. Go check out his story. It'll make you feel better about your situation.
Yeah. So then John Mechie, he goes off the board. He's been banged up, so you didn't get to see
Torn
him.
ACL,
but when you watch the Jameson tape, he pops up all over the place, maybe doing a little bit more dirty work for Alabama than what Jameson Williams was getting all the love and attention. But Mechie was one of those guys who was in the mix with all those other great receivers, and he was always on the field. And then Jameson Williams transfers, and you had the Mechie Williams show, which they had neither one of in the national championship, really. Mechie right here, I think, is going to turn into probably a good value with a bunch of these running backs probably maybe pushing him down a little bit and some other nice little shots at receiver and might be the forgotten man. And I think Mechie's going to end up being a nice little value here for you. Then you got Trey McBride, the first tight end off the board. This isn't premium, and if it was, he'd probably be a little higher. And look, if he's your number one tight end, I got no problem in non-premium if you want to stab at him at the end of the second round. If you truly believe that he's awesome. We haven't done any tight end evaluations. I know for me, there's so far from just watching college football, the three are probably McBride, Weidermeyer, and
Strong.
Isaiah Likely from Coastal Carolina. I like all three of those guys from what I've seen an actual game tape of watching those teams play. So got no problem with that. And then 212 is Pierre Strong, who put together a fantastic combine, 4.37.
Fastest 40 from running backs.
Well-built fella.
36-inch vert. I think that's the best vert.
Don't know shit about him.
Someone had a 36 and a half.
Rashaad White had 38.
Oh, he had a 38, right.
Don't know anything about Pierre Strong, but hey, at 212 with a guy like size speed combo and a little maybe with a little draft capital, could be a nice little pick there for you. So can't really comment on that one, but hey, here we are.
Shot, J Mike.
Hell yeah,
J Mike likes him. I can get down with that. You got some honorable mentions.
Just James Cook for sure. Right.
I don't think he'll make it out of the second round when your rookie draft comes around. People are gonna hear him enough.
Right.
He's getting hyped up
right.
because he's Dalvin Cook's brother and he can catch the shit out of the ball.
And like you said, when we were talking about the combine, every time they talked about him, they gave him love, and he
looks a lot like Dalvin.
He looks so clean in that pass game, and I think he is a pretty good runner, but plus in the pass game. So James Cook, definitely honorable mention here.
Tyler Beatty,
100%.
He's a guy that you got to have on your radar. Yep. Probably gonna be looking to take him just somewhere in the second round.
Two more running backs: Jerome Ford, Bam Knight. I know that's your guy.
Zonovan? Yeah, let me get Zonovan honorable mention. I'm going to have him in every draft because he's going to be pretty much free. You probably don't even have to take him in the third.
And I don't know shit about Ty Chandler, but he had a nice combine, so got to check him out a little bit. Just all of a sudden there's a deep, potential pretty good running back class here, and the first 7 or 8 picks are awesome, and then I like. Picks 1-8 through like 2-4. You're like, damn, I feel pretty good about all these dudes. And then you got all these running back stabs, and then there'll be some other wide receivers that pop up in the draft that the Palmers of the world who certainly weren't on our radar, and then they get drafted with some decent capital, and you got to go check them out, and ended up being on a couple of our teams. And so when the NFL's saying, hey, we're taking this guy here, they're not always right, but you got to go pay attention to him. So there'll be some other guys that pop up. So.
I like it, man. If people are said it in the ADP show, if people are devaluing 22 picks and just going after 23 picks. Like, grab you an extra 22 pick. Take a stab on these guys.
Right.
Because it's a lot of fun. And the more we dig in, the more we like these guys. And it's
Right.
just like, I hate the narrative towards the class. I hate any trash narrative because I
Right.
just feel like you think you're cool saying it's a trash
Right.
class. I think you think you're cool saying that. And you don't sound cool. You sound
Right.
staunch. You know,
Yeah.
there's a difference.
I can get it to a point. All classes are not created equal. We've had some pretty good ones in the recent past, but I think this one's, pretty solid from the first 2 rounds for sure. Look pretty fun, man. So, I'm glad that we have a decent amount of 2022 picks.
That 2050 class, though.
2051.
Jeez.
2051.
Oh, right. Yeah, that was the 2050s trash.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
So
Should I hit the music here?
suck eggs. And I did have a stain on my shirt for most of this. I spilled a little water on myself, so go fuck yourself.
What's water?
Water.
Water. Well, appreciate you guys for joining us. If you're watching on the podcast, hit that subscribe button. If you're listening on iTunes or Spotify, let me get a 5-star review. Just tap it. Go to revelrybrewco.com. I'll put a link in the description. Grab yourself a T-shirt, a fresh, soft tee for your pleasure. Support the show. Appreciate you guys. We'll see you next time. Peace.